Record button. Good morning, Uzman. Thank you for the personalized greeting. I appreciate that. Looking forward to today's class. So it looks like Kevin, who's our assistant instructor, I don't see Kevin today. Do I have a volunteer who would like to be the assistant instructor? Since Kevin is not here, you can just unmute yourself and say, I am your brave soul. Go ahead.
I am your brave soul.
All right, Uzman Ba, you are our assistant instructor. Thank you so much for stepping up. Uzman, why don't you tell us something interesting about you that we don't already know? I know that you're a very interesting man, so that shouldn't be very hard to think of something.
All right. Gohan is the greatest anime character of all time.
Gohan is
Dragon Ball. Yeah.
Okay.
Like he got cheated because Goku, his father, they just couldn't let him go. But if they would have let him take over, it would have been magical.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for that. So you like anime? That's like your favorite genre of
Yes, like way better.
Entertainment. Yeah.
Yeah.
Cool. How's like a person like get into anime? Like if you never watched a single thing of anime in your life, how do you start?
Well, I don't know how to tell you how to start, but like it's like kid, you know.
Mm-hmm. Just
You know,
get into it as a kid.
From the TV, it's just connection. It was over there. It was just it was real.
I love it. I feel you. Well, thank you so much, Uzman, for being our assistant instructor, for stepping up and helping out today. We appreciate you. Appreciate your fun fact about anime. I'm gonna have to just you get into anime because you're a human. All right, Rahul. I don't know what that makes us. We're not into anime, but I'll look into that. So just a reminder, if you have any questions or comments, put in the chat box, raise your hand. Uzman will call on you and we'll make it happen today. So in the chat box, let's do a little warm-up question. I know it's first thing in the morning, but in the chat box, what is the difference between a product owner and a Scrum Master? We talked about this yesterday. I know that was very long ago. But what is the difference between those two roles?
Wow, we have a shy crowd today.
I'm telling you, Usman, I'm like, we just talked about this literally 24 hours ago. Not even that, like 22 hours ago. People were like, what is it again? Scrum is for the people. Thank you, Ashley Gavin. Product owner, Jesus says in charge of the product, and Scrum Master manages the team. There you go, Jesus. Very succinct. I love it, for sure. Any other thoughts on the difference between the two? Scrum Master, Louis says, is more of the group-oriented person, while product manager is in charge of the product. Yep, looks like you guys got a good grasp on this. So the difference between Scrum and Waterfall is that in Waterfall, the product manager and the Scrum Master are pretty much the same person. You have to both deal with the people and the product. Scrum said, time out here, it doesn't make any sense. Some people are better with products, some are better with people. Let's make this two different rules, and then we'll be more it'll be more advantageous to all of us. All right, that was an easy one, which makes me kind of nervous because only 4 people answered. So here's the hard one. In the chat box, how do teams function differently in Scrum as opposed to Waterfall? Who here remembers that from our conversation yesterday? Small changes as time progresses. Yes, Andre, what do you mean by that? Do you mind unmuting yourself and sharing out?
So basically, with waterfall method, there's already a plan made, the outline that the team members have to follow, and then we see how successful that plan is at the end. But with agile, it's more of trial and error. You would make a small bit of change here and there, and then you just keep trying and make your edits along the way as you go.
Excellent. Yes, thank you for sure, Andre. I appreciate that. That is 100% correct. That is one of the big differences between the two. But there's another very large difference between teams and waterfall, and teams in Agile. Does anybody remember what it is? How about I sweeten the deal? The first person to type in the biggest difference between the two teams doesn't have to do a discussion board this week.
Can I come off mute and say it?
Of course, go ahead.
Agile team meet every day to talk about progress, obstacles, while the Scrum, the waterfall, no, the other one, they meet like once. They all have tasks, different tasks to do. They don't have to meet up every day. One is not relying on the other as much.
Yeah, that also is a difference between the two, but that's not the one I'm looking for, but I appreciate that. But you're right. Teams meet every day for a daily stand-up, 15 minutes long. But there's one other very substantial difference. Ashley, Gavin, do you know it?
I have a question. You said the difference between traditional and agile, or what was the question?
The difference is, what's the difference between the biggest difference between teams in the agile method or the scrum method versus the waterfall method? We talked about it yesterday.
I have to look through my notes again and then I'll get back to you.
Okay, I'll give you a hint. And task versus deliverables, that's part of it, yes. The hint is it has to do with their leaders. Come on, guys, you're breaking my heart. You know this. I'm gonna give you 10 more seconds. If no one gets it, you all have to do discussion boards.
Is it daily stand-up, sir?
That's what Usman said. That's part of it, but that's not what I'm looking for. The biggest difference
the product owner and project man, like the Scrum manager. Yeah, so the product owner knows the product, and then the Scrum leader is the one in charge of making everything, making his vision come true. While the other one, it's like, the stakeholders, they get to see the end product in the end.
Yes, that's also another difference, but here's the difference I was looking for. Do you remember that chart we looked at yesterday where it showed the product backlog and then the sprint meeting and then the sprint backlog, and the team was involved with deciding how things would move forward? The biggest difference between Scrum and traditional waterfall is Mahmoud is our project manager, and he says, Usman, Eric, Chelsea, Manny, do this. And Usman, Eric, Chelsea, and Manny go and do that. Whereas in Agile, it's Mahmoud's the Scrum master, and he says, okay, Usman, Eric, Chelsea, Manny, let's sit down together and talk through the best way to achieve this together. That's the difference between the two. Waterfall is more that, like, literally a top-down approach, right? I as the project manager am telling you, team, what to do, whereas Scrum is a team effect where everyone's on the same level playing field. Everyone is part of the solution. Everyone's ideas are valuable. That was the big idea I was looking for. So just one of the cool things that's different between Scrum and Waterfall, which I think is more effective to give everybody a say in what they think is the best method moving forward. And the reason I want to spend some time talking about that today is because today is all about building the team. Building the team. And that's an important part of being a leader. It's an important part of project management. That's how we're going to spend the whole entire lecture today discussing just that. Usman, can you see my screen okay?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. So this is probably one of the most important things that you're going to learn in the entirety of your time at Year Up. So if you don't normally take notes, at least take notes for this. This is something that I've taught as a corporate trainer. I've given it to different organizations, business leaders, CEOs. I mean, you named it. I went to Tiffany & Company one time in Jersey, probably 2 years ago. I spoke to their whole entire IT department on this exact topic because it was such an important idea that I want you to really grasp and get a handle on. Because if you understand this, it'll help solve a lot of interpersonal conflicts that come with working on teams in the workplace. So if you don't know what these 4 terms mean, that's fine. I'm going to break them all down. But I want you to imagine a team of people come together. All right. So just like you here in this class, you started Year Up together this past September. You didn't know who each other were. You never hung out. You didn't know each other's name. But now you guys are a team. You've worked together on projects. You've collaborated together. You've been at LC together. You've done group projects together. And the very first phase of that team is called forming. This is also called the honeymoon phase. Isn't this a cute photo? This cute couple on their honeymoon together, holding hands, looking at the water. At this point in the relationship, Everything seems all good, right? I love this person, they love me, they're so great, we're gonna spend forever together. It's the honeymoon phase, right? It's the very first phase in a relationship. You think that person can't do anything wrong, and they're your colleague, they're your teammate, and you have this short but sweet time where you think this person's great, and we're gonna do this great project together. Um, so yes or no in the chat box, does this phase last forever? What do you think? Yes or no? No, 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 no with two O's, Christian, negative. Of course, it doesn't happen forever because it's the honeymoon. It's a short-lived phase, but it's the first phase of a relationship. The next phase is storming. Oh, wait. So this nice little couple, they were looking at the water together, holding hands on a boat, and now it looks like they had a fight. All right. So some of us in Europe, we already have experienced this. We have a person that we collaborated with and we thought this person's great. I love working with that person. But then what happens is there's a conflict, right? That person doesn't do their deliverable. They say they're going to complete part of the project they never complete. They make a sarcastic joke during a meetup. They miss a Zoom meeting. And now the reality kicks in where it's like, oh, this person isn't perfect, and this person makes mistakes, and this person is not the person I thought they were before. So we have the first thing, which is the forming, the honeymoon, the storming. The next step is the norming. All right. And what happens here? You can do one of two things here. Suppose that I'm looking at Ashley Gavin's face. So suppose Ashley Gavin's my scrum master and I'm on her team and I don't show up for a scrum meeting one morning. So Ashley Gavin calls me. She says, hey, Eric, we missed you at the scrum meeting. Is everything okay? I know that's not like you. I say, oh, yeah, I'm so sorry. You know, I was running late because I hit some traffic. Okay, no problem. Just from now on, let me know. All right, I will do. Next day comes, scrum meeting, 8 o'clock. Ashley's there leading her team, and I don't show up again, right? Now it's turning into a problem because now it's 2 days in a row. I never call, I never text, I never tell Ashley Gavin I'm not coming. Now, Ashley Gavin needs to sit down with me and say, okay, Eric, we have to make some boundaries here. From now on, like I need you at every 8 o'clock scrum meeting because you're a valuable part of this team. And if you can't make it, I need you to text or call me and let me know why. But from here on out, I need you to be part of this this process in order for this product to succeed in the way it needs to succeed. What does she just do there? She just made a boundary. She says, from now on, if you can't make it, you have to call or text me. It's why we do things like contract in Europe, right? So what happens? Ashley G put her foot down. Yeah, exactly. So what happens if and you can raise your hand and I'll have Usman call on you. What happens in that situation if Ashley just ignores me being missing scrum meetings and not showing up? Usman, who has their hand up?
Andre.
Yeah, Andre.
Basically, if she doesn't do anything, that nothing gets changed. Pretty much
Right.
it.
And I keep not showing up to scrum meetings. Man, I don't feel like it. It's early in the morning. It's a waste of time. Whatever. Nothing changes. Anybody else have their hand up?
Yes, David also had his hand up.
Thanks, Usman. Yeah, I was gonna say if Ashley doesn't do anything about it, just like what Andre basically said, that it starts to become intentional. Start doing it all the time.
Well, let's tease this out a little bit, David. Imagine we're on the same team and you notice, wait, Eric doesn't come to these meetings and Ashley doesn't seem to care. Maybe I'm not going to show up anymore. Could you see that happening?
I mean, if I noticed you weren't showing up, then I would be the one to contact you.
You would contact me as well and be like, where are you?
Yeah.
And I would be like, you're not my boss.
I'll just remind you that you're also an aspect to this project as well.
That's some very good influence and persuade techniques learned by the great Rachel last week, the Inspire. Thanks, David. Yeah, but that's the thing is like if Ashley doesn't say, hey, you need to start showing up, these are the boundaries, then all of a sudden the whole team starts to slip. But she does that, and I say, you know what, you're absolutely right. I'm sorry. Let's get back on track. And now we're performing. Now people are showing up on time. They're working hard. They're getting their job done. It's these 4 steps. So it's the forming, storming, norming, and performing. So you as a leader, what do you do? And this is from scenarios. The very first thing is the forming. That's when you are the teacher who provides the clarity. Okay. Everyone's new. They don't really know each other. They're still trying to feel each other out, but there's a lot of excitement. There's a lot of trust. There's a lot of like unknowns as well. Like I don't really know what's happening. So you need to provide that clarity, explain what we're doing, do icebreakers, get people to get to know each other as quickly as possible. Because what's going to eventually happen is the storming, right? Eventually, what's going to happen is this: they're going to be mad at, we're going to get mad at each other. We're not going to meet each other's goals. We're not going to follow through like we said we're going to follow through. And you need to be the coach that provides the guidance. What Ashley has done, Eric, we really need you here. If you can't make it, you need to call and text me. That's a coach providing guidance. Then the norming happens. You begin to set those boundaries, and you're there for the support. What can I do to support you to get you where you need to ultimately be, which is the performing, the cheerleader that offers the encouragement. Now, here's the thing that is really profound is you can't get to performing until you get through forming, storming, and norming. You just can't. You just don't show up the very first day to a project and start performing perfectly on day one. It takes time. You have to learn about each other. You have to build trust, repertoire, all that good stuff. So you as a leader, whether you're the product manager or the scrum master, you need to be a teacher, a coach, a mentor, and a cheerleader. And you have to know, where is my team right now in the process? So I have a question for you guys. I'll put it in the chat box to make it easy. Which one of these four do you see yourself with most of your colleagues here at Year Up? So let me just copy and paste it. There's the question. Share my screen again. So of these four, forming, storming, norming, performing, which one of these four do you say I'm here with most of my colleagues at Year Up? Put in the chat box. What do you think? And yes, Ashley Ross, you're right. It's a mix because you might be performing with one person and storming with another. And that's normal. So how about you say most of your colleagues? We'll say if you had to pick one, I'm at blank with most of my colleagues. Jesus says norming. All right, Jesus, because I know that you are a remarkable student and project manager extraordinaire. Without you saying anybody's names, all right, we want to protect the innocent. What are some ways that you think you can are building those boundaries with people as you're norming? Like, what does that look like in your day to day as a part of the Year Up organization?
Well, I believe I chose norming because I got to meet most of my colleagues already through presentations, right, through projects. And overall, sometimes we have like study groups, like after school sometimes as well. So I feel like we sometimes interact in that way. And I would say, yeah, norming in a way. We support each other sometimes.
Yeah, so you're there for a support role. Excellent. And Manny, I think you're the only person that put performing. For the people that you're performing with, Manny, like you're like, oh man, if I get partnered with this person, like we get the job done. How do you get to that level to encourage the rest of us in this room?
That's a good question. I would say
Thank
like
you.
there are like 2 to 4 of my colleagues, and we know that if we work together in a group, we're gonna execute and we're gonna get the job done within, like, let's say 3 to 4 days when we have like a week and a half of a project. So that's the reason why I chose performing.
Great. So you have a few people that you know are your go-to people that if you're working with them, you'll be able to execute well because you've gotten to that 4th level already. Great. I love it. And Samaje, that's an interesting comment. I want to hear you speak more. It depends on the group. It switches. I think a lot of us can relate. So tell us more about that.
Throughout Year Up, I realized that everyone has a different performance level, and then sometimes you have to be the leader. Sometimes you're the person storming, the person who's in the role for storming. and
Mhm.
forming at the same time, and then you have others. So it's just like it switches throughout groups in
Mhm.
different classes, and you have to figure out people's like their strengths and weaknesses to
Yep.
figure out that.
Totally, 100% for sure. To figure out what is their strengths, their weaknesses, their motivations, all that good stuff. Excellent, Samaje. I'd be curious for someone who wants to raise their hand. If someone's like, how do you go from storming to norming? Suppose you have a relationship or relationships with people within Year Up, and you're in that storm with them right now. And when you get put into a breakout room with them, or you're stuck on assignment together, you're like, this person again. How do you move from storming to norming? What do you think you should do as a leader? And look at what it says here: as a coach who provides guidance. Someone want to raise their hand and be so bold to say, what I do is I do this when I have a tension with somebody else in our workspace. Yeah, Andre.
If it's like somebody that I've worked with before, that I know that their work ethic is really not up to par, I'll kind of like state the boundaries before the project even starts. Like, listen, we've worked in a group before. I know how you are sometimes. I'm just gonna let you know straight up that don't pull your weight. Just like everybody else, your name isn't going to be on the end product, and that's just how it is.
So you said like an ultimatum, like we're doing this together, and if you don't pull your weight, your name's not going to be on the end product. That's what you do. Cool. Thanks, Andre. Anybody else have feedback? Appreciate that. So check out Andre, but a bit nicer. Well, the thing of it is that you have to be honest with people, right? Like, listen, there's 4 of us on this team, and we're all going to do 25% of the work, and that's it, right? There's not one person does 50 and one person and the other 3 do 20, 20, and 10. We're all going to break it down piece by piece. One other thing that I would add, but in terms of having boundaries, is making it very clear from the beginning, these are your deliverables, and if you don't hit your deliverables, like, we're going to have a problem. And maybe you have to break it down to baby steps, but that's what it comes down to. But yeah, I mean, there's nothing wrong with being honest with people, saying, hey, we're a team. We're only as strong as our weakest link, so we need to work together collaboratively. Yes, Majida, how would you address that person?
In addition to like how you were saying that it's like you have to like just be like outright with them, like honest, like, hey, we have this amount of work and we have to get this done. I would also like kind of give them like the encouragement that like, hey, if you need me to break this down and like further down to help you to get this done, I'll do that for you. Like, I'm taking initiative to like put everything aside and take time to help you if you need that help. But if you refuse it due to personal reasons and still don't end up meeting to the expectation that you were given, then
Right.
that's right there.
Right. Yeah. So Majida, you do a little bit of the tough love plus like the coaching. Like, I'm also here to help you get along as well if you're struggling. Excellent. I love it. Ashley Ross, last comment, and we'll keep going.
I have a question.
Yep.
For the providing guidance and providing support, how does that look like differently in program management, product management?
Yeah. Yeah. So the difference between providing guidance and providing support.
Yes. Like, can you give an example of like how someone would do that? Because it seems like it's pretty similar.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's just take the group project as our example. And let's suppose that, it's my job to create the PowerPoint deck. And, and Majida, we know, is very good at creating PowerPoint decks, and I'm not as good as she is. So guidance would be like, hey, once, actually, let's say twice a week for an hour, me and Majida are going to get onto Zoom, and I'm going to build out a PowerPoint, and she's going to like help me as I do it. That's guidance. Like, she literally is like doing it right side by side with me, like showing me how to do transitions, how to add colors, how to add fonts. That doesn't really make sense putting that there. That picture doesn't look good there. That's guidance. Support is, okay, Eric, you make the PowerPoint, and then 2 weeks, we're going to have a 30-minute conversation where I'm going to look at it and I'm going to provide feedback. That's support. All right. Guidance is more of like I'm holding your hand through the process. Support is like you're driving this, and I'm here to get behind you. That's how I would differ between those two. Is that helpful, Ashley?
That's a perfect explanation. Thank you, Eric.
You're welcome. Yeah, thank you for asking. It's a great question. All right, so here we go. What we're gonna do now is one of the differences between waterfall technique and agile technique is it's a little bit tricky, and I promise you're not gonna be quizzed on this. We have the kickoff meeting. Do you guys remember the kickoff meeting? That's what we do in waterfall. Then in Scrum and Agile, you have the kickstart meeting. And the kickstart meeting is different because as opposed to the kickoff meeting, that's where you get together with the stakeholders, the team, and you kind of lay out your plan. The kickstart meeting is like a brand new, this is the first time that anybody has ever met on the entire team. Okay, so it's very different than just, we've already been meeting for a month and we know each other. This is like, we're literally walking into a room, we're complete strangers, and we have no idea who any of us are. So here's some of the things that I'm going to put into the chat. Probably is easier to explain that you should include in your kickstart meeting. So to keep in mind, it's your Scrum team, 4 or 5 people. You get together. The very first thing that you should do is an icebreaker. All right. Anybody have an example? You want to raise your hand of what would be a work appropriate icebreaker you could do. Imagine you never met each other before. You're all brand new. Raise your hand. What would you do for a work appropriate icebreaker, David Torres?
Ashley Ross has her hand up. I don't know.
Oh yeah. Is that from earlier, Ashley?
Yeah, it's for earlier, but I can answer. An icebreaker that I would do would probably be tell me about yourself and what do you hope to accomplish like at the end of your tenure.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Ashley. Who's next, Usman?
We have Pablo the Magnificent.
I was gonna say like a fun question, like ask them what's your favorite place to travel.
Very cool. Excellent. So ask them what's your favorite place to travel. Yep. Anybody else? Usman?
And of course, we always have the consistent David.
Thanks, Usman. I was gonna say, so you first introduce yourself, give people some background info about yourself. So what are your favorite activities, and you try to connect with them.
Excellent. So it's just doing things to get people comfortable with one another. Bear in mind they don't know each other. This is their first time ever being together. So that's why I want to make sure that you have some sort of icebreaker. In the chat box, why is food an important part of this meeting? You might be wondering why do you include food? Like, why do you need food at this meeting? Andre, yes.
It's a good incentive, and people tend to think a lot more effectively on a full stomach.
Absolutely, it's effective. They think better on a full stomach. Thanks, Andre. Chelsea, then Mohammed.
Food is just a common thing that everyone has, that even if you don't like the food, you can talk about how much you don't like the food to someone else. And that's a way to connect with somebody.
Totally. It just makes things more relaxed, right? It's like, come on, why they do paninis? Why don't they do, salads, right? Awesome. And Mohammed, last comment.
Yeah, I was just gonna piggyback what Chelsea said, but also knowing that some people are like vegans. I think that's also like common.
Yes, I'm glad you said that, Mohammed. That was actually my follow-up is be thoughtful of the food that you choose, right? There's a lot of people who are vegetarians, some who are vegans, some who eat fish and chicken but don't eat red meat, some who don't eat fried food. So you have to just be careful about the menu that you pick. Coffee and donuts and like croissants and fruit tends to work really well. Sandwiches and wraps and salads tends to work very well. But yeah, I mean, I've been in trainings before where they catered Indian food, and there's 30 people, and 24 of them don't like Indian food, which I love Indian food. So I'm like, well, more for me. So, but it's always like kind of awkward when people like just assume everyone's gonna like this one cuisine and they don't. So it's just one of those things to be mindful of. We'll keep moving along, but I would also encourage a short training on Scrum This is how we're going to do things. A team vision, like what is our vision for the end of this product launch? Sometimes in Scrum, you even pick a team name, just like it builds that camaraderie, right? As opposed to like, oh, we're team one. No, we are the, what was the name of the anime character that you like, Usman?
Gohan.
Yeah, we're team Gohan, right? It just creates a
I want to be part of that team.
You'll be part of that team. Well, guess what? We're gonna do a breakout in about 2 minutes, and you can be Team Gohan, Usman. And then you want to have a team contract, just like we have here at Year Up. These are the expectations. And the last thing you want to do is communications. So how are we going to stay in touch? Are we going to do Slack, email, GChat, you name it. So that's what we're going to do. Did I put that right? Yep. So this is your breakout. You're going to spend about 5 minutes with your team doing this. You're a Scrum team and you're developing an app, a Year Up app, and I want you to spend 5 minutes. What is your vision statement for the app? What is your team name? What is your team contract? How are you going to keep each other accountable? What are your team roles? What is each person going to do? And how are you going to communicate? All right. And then come back in 5 minutes. I'll call in a couple teams and we'll go from there. Any questions on what you're expected to do during this breakout? If so, raise your hand, or not, I'm sending you off. All right, enjoy. Okay, welcome back, everybody. I see lots of smiles. I guess you guys had a very productive meeting. Do me a favor in the chat box, write down what your team name was. Let's start there. What was your team name? Entree is Team Kachoon. Team Z Fighters, the Recyclers, Dynamite, Team. Okay. All right, Chelsea, let's hear why the Recyclers. Why did you guys come up with that?
So basically our app was something that we could use as a better interface. So that way we don't have to depend on Schoology for Europe staff and students.
Mm-hmm.
And it's not the first time that we brought that up in our hypothetical, what would you make? So we was like, that's a recycled idea. So we'll be the recyclers.
I love it. Thank you so much, Chelsea. The Recyclers, great. Hannah, you were the daring developers with 2 biceps. Why did you choose that name?
Because we were gonna do something where we allowed students to rate, like, you know how we have rate your professor, we were gonna do like a rate your instructor. And at the same time, this is still an app where you can come to office hours specifically. That way you don't have to do it through Zoom. You can find their email specifically, and any time that they're not going to be in office or they plan on having any days like they're not going to teach, you'll find all that information there as well.
Excellent. I love it. And Hannah, while I have you, did you guys talk about your vision statement at all? Did that come up in your team or not yet?
Our vision statement is a little bit shaky, but it was providing the best education for every type of learner. So the reason that we're making it is that way, if you're not a visual learner or if you're a more hands-on learner, you get to find the instructor that's best suited for you instead of just being thrown into something.
Nice. I love that. Very cool. Anybody else have a clever, that was very good, vision statement that you want to raise your hand and share out on? That was a pretty hard act to follow on Hannah's group. Yes, Manny.
Yes. So compared to my other colleagues, what we did was we came up with a plan where we don't have to deal with Zoom, where it's playing favoritism, where it says, you know what, this person gets early, this person came in early, but I'm gonna mark this person late. No need for that. So here's what we came up with. We came up with a software that every time you're gonna clock in for for year up or internship or whatever the case may be, it takes a picture of you that knows that you're there. So if you guys are, feeling, kind of courageous, I'm gonna put my cash app on the chat box. You guys can put my assignment and I can work on the software if you guys want to. No need for minus 10 points, minus $20, hearing that every Friday because they'll mark you late. So
all right, Manny is on his hustle right now. All right, David, then Andre.
So in my group, the vocab gurus, Ashley came up with a statement saying, so the app will basically be for people to know their dues and always being on top of their performances.
Okay, excellent. Love it. Thank you. Very catchy. Perfect. And Andre, last vision statement.
Okay, so I'm here representing Team Kajun. Hashtag get prepared or else. Basically, our vision statement is kind of making the whole Europe community and interface a little bit more convenient for a lot of us students. Some of us actually have jobs. Some of us may not be able to get to a laptop at certain points, so be a little bit better to have it on our phone. Have an option for like Dropbox for assignments that directly link to Schoology, just in case you might not be able to get to the laptop in time. It has message boards, it has assignments and all notifications linked to the account as soon as you log in.
Excellent. It sounds great. Appreciate that, Andre. Someone want to put in the chat box or raise their hand. What were some things that came up in team contract? Or some things that you're like, these are non-negotiables. This is how our team is going to work together. Did anybody get that far in their group or not quite? All right. Anyone besides Andre? Mahmood says deliverables must be finished on time. Why call David for vocab when we have Siri? Yes, Majida.
We had we didn't finish it completely because time ran out, but we had that, like, we agreed that to not miss more than 2 meetings with notification,
Okay.
and then hand our tasks in on time at all times, and then be aware of timing in the aspect that if there's something that you cannot get in time, you should be aware that other people's time is also being affected, like they've dedicated their time, so always communicate. And then, like, the last aspect would be communication, because communication is key.
Yep. Excellent. Thank you so much. Who else do we have?
Manny's hand is up.
Excellent. Manny, please.
So for team contract, what me and my team came up with is to model the year up contract, right? And our communication is through group chat. So if you get to miss a deliverable or they're not coming to a meeting, such and such, we will take it out of your stipend, out of your paycheck, regardless of excuses or not. It's gonna come out. There is an advance. We tell you in advance. You don't want to do it, that's on you, not on us. Deal with it.
All right. Put your foot down, Manny. Yeah, I don't want Manny as my boss. He's a tough boss. All right, Andre, last comment, and we're going to move to the next activity.
This one's a little bit weird because the contract is actually got inspired from Kachun's class. So basically, it's along the lines of coming into this, you have to make sure that you're prepared and ready, or else if you're not, you're going to suffer the consequences later on the line.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's really helpful. Great. Thank you, Andre. And then the last thing was, and Manny already mentioned how his group is going to do it, but just in the chat box, how is your group going to stay in touch? What resource are you going to use? Are you going to use email? Are you going to use Slack? Are you going to use Discord? Are you going to use GChat? You're going to use Zoom? What's going to be your method of communication to keep your team updated with what's going on? Outlook and Zoom. Email with a sprinkle of Zoom, Discord and Zoom. All right, cool. By the way, it looks like the Europe emails are working again for staff, which is good. So I just got the notice a few minutes ago. All right. We're going to do one last activity before we wrap it up for the day. But in Scrum, you'll oftentimes hear people say user stories. I'm not sure if you had a chance to learn what that means yet, but for those who are uncertain, a user story is just a fancy way of saying what does the end user want out of this product. All right, so some of you already mentioned an example of a user story. So if one person mentioned, I think it was Andre, who said like making sure all the materials are in one place, including the Zoom links, the office hours, submitting assignments on Dropbox. So like that would be an example of a user story. To make this the best product it could be, we want this function to exist within the product. So just to give you a quick, not so pretty snapshot, but this is kind of what it looks like in a Scrum board. You have the user story. As user, I want blank, blank, blank. Then you have the to-do list, which you need to code and test. What's in that's your product backlog here. What's in process, what needs to be verified, and what's done. So you sort of like move things along the line to make it happen. So we're not going to do all of this today because we're running close on time, but we're going to do the very first one with a Jamboard. What is the user story? So I just put the link in the chat box. Go ahead and open up that link. Let me go ahead and find what I'm looking for here. There we go. And I want you to create a sticky note. And I want you to move the sticky note onto the screen. I want the functional app that holds all applications necessary. What applications, what functions should our new app have? And keep in mind, like you go over here to the left where the sticky note is, you click on that and there's your sticky note, type it in. I want it to have, office hours, links. I press save and then see how it just pops up right there. And then there you go, instant messaging. What I want you to do is once you share your contribution, please make sure you leave this screen because it can only be, I think, 25 people at a time. So we want to make sure that there is adequate time that everybody can go on who wants to submit something, they can submit it. So far we have instant messaging, saving work, user-friendly UI. What other applications should be on this app to make it the best it can be for future Europe participants? We only have 4 ideas. Come on, we can do it. Remember, once you submit, you LinkedIn from instructors. By the way, I got a few LinkedIn requests from you guys. That was nice. Contract track points should be on the app. There you go. What else should be on this app? A ticketing service. Wellness workshops. I love it. We're going to take one more minute and then we're going to do an activity with this. You couldn't find me on LinkedIn. All right. Now I'm going to have to put my LinkedIn profile on in the chat. We're going to be using LinkedIn a lot in Mod 3. There you go. Yes, Ashley Ross.
Yeah, I have a question. Are we gonna do our Google Sites again? Like, are we gonna finish it?
Yes, you'll finish that in business communications with Vanessa and with Kara. All right, so everyone, Usman, can you see my screen, the Jamboard?
Yes.
Thank you, sir. So what I want you to do is this. I want you to take a look at these Post-it notes, and you're going to go back into the same group that you were just in, and you're going to spend 5 minutes discussing which one of these is the most critical to get accomplished first. All right. So you're gonna have a group discussion. You're gonna say, I think this is the most critical to accomplish first, and this is how we're gonna implement it. And then if you get that done, then we're gonna move on to the next phase, which is like the second most important thing. So the way it works in Scrum, oh my gosh, you guys are like blowing up my LinkedIn right now. The way it works in Scrum is you have the user stories. You have, I want the product to have this, and then then it goes from there. Then you as a team decide this is the order that we're going to put things. You all have access to the Jamboard, so it shouldn't be too complicated. So go back with your team, 5 minutes, come back at 10 o'clock and say, we're going to do this one first, this one second, based in order of importance, as a team decides. All right. Also, just to say this, if you can't get a consensus, actually, let me go backwards. You should designate a Scrum Master on your team. All right, a Scrum Master on your team, and that person gets the final say. So that way, if you're a group of 4, which some of you are, and nobody, you're split between what should be the next step, the Scrum Master gets the ultimate decision. I don't want you to spend the whole 5 minutes deliberating on one point. You should have a few points by the time you get back. All right. See you guys in 5 minutes. All right, it looks like we're all back. I want to hear from Team Dynamite, which was Christian's team. Whoever wants to be your spokesperson, what is the first task that you're going to get on in terms of the Jamboard? Which one do you think this is the most pressing, this is the most important? Team Dynamite.
So we came to an agreement that user-friendly UI is the most important thing, because before an app even gets launched or anything, like actually after it gets launched, the first thing is that how do customers or students or anybody, whoever is using it, how do they interact with the app itself? And that's, I think, a really big important aspect, because the moment if you get onto it and it's really disorganized, you don't know where anything is at all, with no categories or anything, that just creates so many problems in organization and communication with other people. So having an easy user interface is like really helpful, because it's easier to navigate through, and it's easier for us as students to like just simply on a one-click basis just submit our assignment. And then the next thing that we came to an agreement was instant messaging. Having to go through emails on a daily basis, and like instead of having to like email either each individuals of us to each other or even our instructors, we want to have a way where just instantly, like, we have a simple question, we just pose it into that group chat or to that instructor specifically, and we just get a message reply back, instead of having to do like a whole email like hello and then like a closing and then a body with all that. And then our last thing that we wanted, we thought was important, was to have a way that groups can have a shared file. So for example, if there are a lot of people, like they prefer using for personal experience, they prefer using like Word document or PowerPoint, like Microsoft software. And the problem is sometimes having to share that link with everybody. You have to share it and then input all of their individual emails, and then you have to make sure if they receive that email. But sometimes they don't end up receiving that email, and they can no longer edit that document at the same time. So having a way where group members can come and just edit their work all at once without having to like go through so many steps, just having a one-click basis.
Excellent. Awesome, Majida. Sounds like your team Dynamite lives up to its name and accomplished a lot in those 5 minutes. Does anybody else want to raise their hand and share what path they chose to be their first steps to develop this app? And Usman can go ahead and call on you. You can raise your hand. Usman, whose hand was first?
The core.
Alrighty. So our team, we decided to go first with a contract page. since we don't normally get updated with that unless we ask. A lot of people just don't ask. So we feel like having that readily available on our interface would be helpful to everyone. Then we decided to do office hours links. So that way we can know when office hours aren't being held, or if we need help and it's a bunch of us that need help with like a particular problem, we can all attend that office hours links, and it can kind of be like an additional class supplement. Then we decided to go with user-friendly interface, only because most of us, as far as this section goes, we are IT, so we can more or less figure out things on our own. So we figured that didn't have to go too high on the importance, but it still had to fit somewhere in the middle. Then we decided to go for a ticketing system, since Schoology has so many issues that we all have to deal with, but some of us it runs smoother than others. So we feel that since not everybody always has the same issues, a ticketing system would be better to deal with issues that arise in Schoology and with Outlook and things. And then instant messaging, because not everyone is comfortable with sharing their emails or their personal information to get in touch with colleagues and staff. So this is more something to find a middle ground, a balance. So that's what we decided.
Excellent. I love it. Thank you so much, Chelsea. What was your team's name again?
The Recyclers.
The Recyclers. Excellent job, Recyclers. And I think Manny was our last hand, and we'll finish up class.
Okay, so me and my team, we decided to go is first and foremost messaging. This communication is one of the main keys when it's trying to get a project done. Let's say a person is running late because of traffic. We can't control traffic. We cannot control public transportation. So messaging is gonna go first. The second one we chose is contract points. Why wait till Friday for you to hear your contract points when you can just go on the app and look them up?
Right.
Number 3, course link. So all the coaching, all the classes, check-ins, every single link is gonna be in that part of the section.
Yep.
4, LinkedIn. So I know we're in a professional environment. We cannot, and staff cannot, like us, like participants, interns, staff. Like one of my colleagues said, they are not comfortable giving their, their social media, phone numbers, emails. Well, the LinkedIn's are going to be there, since that's one of the pages that employers look.
Yep.
To get hired.
Excellent.
And last but not least, troubleshooting.
Troubleshooting. Great. And what was your team, Manny? What was your team's name?
Team Z Fighters.
Team Z Fighters. Wow, these are some great names. I love it. Excellent. Okay. Well, thank you all. I apologize we didn't take a break today, but we'll finish class 5 minutes early. How's that for a deal? Usman, thank you for stepping up and being the brave soul to be today's assistant instructor. Do you mind reading our deliverables? Is Usman here? I don't see him. I guess he got kicked out. All right. Oh, he's in the waiting room. Here we go. As he makes his way back, I'll go ahead and read them. Remember to watch the video on Scrum, and make sure you respond by tonight what your thoughts are, and respond to at least 2 posts by Thursday. Also, where's Muhammad at? Everyone give Muhammad a round of applause, because he helped me realize that, you know what, an elevator speech video should not be 3 minutes. It should only be 1 minute, because that 3 minutes is way too long. So thank you, Muhammad, for helping me realize the errors of my way. And also, on a more practical note, I have 45 students this mod. Can you imagine me spending 3 minutes watching every single person's video and then grading it and evaluating it? It'll just take a really long time. So 1 minute, answering that question. That is due Thursday. Usman, thank you for being a great assistant instructor. I appreciate you.
Thank you for being an awesome teacher, man.
You're welcome. Guys, have a great rest of the day. See you tomorrow. Bye.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you, Eric.
Bye, Eric.
Bye.
Thank you, Eric.
Thank you.
Have a good day.
You too.